Want to go to the trading floor and bring in Scott Gecas. He's with Walsh Trading in Chicago. And Scott, you might explain to our audience why it is, if they've never used them, why this year is so important to maybe consider those options.
Right, and the options, number one thing they're used for is protection, for various different products, either long side or short side. It just really depends on what your position is in the underlying. With that being said, the grain markets just across the board, you see massive upside call buying just to protect everything. This weather has thrown a wrench in pretty much everything.
We'll come back in a moment and talk more with Scott Gecas of Walsh Trading in Chicago. We'll talk about livestock right after this. Well, we're talking with Scott Gecas of Walsh Trading Incorporated, and they are located right there in Chicago. He's at the edge of the trading floor, and when we look at our livestock trade, we definitely had a turnaround in the cattle complex earlier today. As we look at our prices right now here, Scott, we'll start with live cattle, and we currently have that August contract $1.50 higher now at 105.78. That's within about 25 cents of our high of the day. That's a long shot from that earlier low this morning of 104.40. And now you have October at 106.78. That one is $1.50 off of its earlier low this morning. We're now at $1.30 higher. Quite a turnaround there. Feeder cattle trade, the feeders just haven't really been able to get their feet under them to a great extent, but they are a little higher now. August up 40 at 135.93, and September up 32 at 136.13. But I do need to point out that there again, it's about $1.50 off our earlier low. So signs of maybe a little bit of buying coming into the feeder market now, at least for the time being. Lean hog trade, boy, the lean hogs had a big wide swing early on, and now you have the first 1, 2, 3 contract months over $1 higher. July up $1.48, August up $1.45 at 82.08. So signs of life here in the livestock trade on a Monday, even though a lot of the grain trade is still higher too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're watching here is just a technical correction. So with the cattle, as soon as we broke that 105, if we can get that close above 105, that is a sign that the trend is reversing. Maybe we can get a little bit more support to the upside. But overall, just the overall picture in the cattle market, it's definitely towards the weaker side. You still have lower weights, seasonal demand, domestic demand is a little bit off. The exports aren't really there. Still had that supply concerns pretty much across the board. So we're going to see how this is going to react into the close. But again, we were watching that 105 level in the cattle market.
How much are the traders keeping an eye on what maybe the Fed does this week? It depends on what they do with interest rates, and that could have a spillover impact on the economy and expendable income in that economy when it comes to buying meat. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think the interest rate picture, the story going into this month, FOMC, is very unique because you have it all. You have swings all over the place. You have anywhere from cutting rates to raising rates. So it's going to be very interesting what comes out, what's going to be in the language, and how is that going to affect everything moving forward.
So we were talking earlier about the popularity of options on the grain side, but what about livestock? Are they as popular there?
A little bit, but not nearly as much as the grain market. It's not nearly as traded as much as a volume aspect. It's still there. Options are still being used for protection one way or the other. You don't really see too many speculators trading options in the protein complex. That's more for the professionals and hedgers. But it does happen, just not as much as you would think.
Do you feel fairly safe in thinking there may be a low in the cattle market then or not?
With these markets, as volatile as everything has been, nothing surprises me. I would not say any type of definite low or high in any of these markets these days.
All right. Well, enough said. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that, Scott. Scott Gecas, he is with Walsh Trading, and he is located right there at the edge of the trading floor in Chicago.